Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss. And she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
Wow. It's kind of been a crazy summer for us. And now we're finally starting to come into fall. And it's like, when was the last time we recorded?
August 4th. Yeah, been a little bit.
It's been a bit.
Been over a month. So
Yeah.
it's been tough, but the good news is, people, is we're coming into the slow season, which means the snow will fly. We'll be under 4 feet of snow again, and we can have a lot more time to podcast. So, and we already have people lined up there saying like, yeah, hit us up in the fall and we'll be on the podcast. So
Yeah.
we'll do some stuff on that end. But yeah, 52, episode 52.
Yeah. Crazy. So, yeah.
So this episode is actually a very unique episode because we shout out to a bunch of our listeners that got hold of us and said, you know, hey, we want you guys to come out and come to an event they were trying to put together. So obviously, I think everybody here is familiar with the Palisades Fire that happened in in Southern California that was just devastating. Almost 7,000 structures lost in that fire. I mean, it was just a horrible thing, but a lot of interesting things to take out of it and things we learned from it and stuff. But we had Dennis Smith, so shout out to Dennis. I know he's listening. A lot of people in that group that listened to the podcast said, you know, he reached out to us and asked if we would be interested in coming down, and they were putting together. It's kind of been fun to watch the evolution. Even I know from Dennis's standpoint, it went from kind of like, hey, let's get together in a conference room to talk, with a few people about ICF to, it grew to this event that it ended up being at the Pacific Design Center in West Hollywood, where we had and I haven't got the total numbers yet on it, but I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people came through. It was just an amazing event. And it ended up being 30, I think he said 32 vendors that all came that were all fire related to, how to rebuild the Palisades area and all the affected buildings out of something more fireproof. So yeah, it was super cool. I mean, just in the fact of like, literally the first conversation I had with Dennis was like, hey man, we're going to get together. Maybe, I think the first thing he says, like over drinks, was like a cocktail hour. We were all just going to talk about, how to fix, or how to build better, to this actual trade show event that it turned into. So it was really, really successful. In that, I was talking with different people, and I actually talked with, Jacob Schnibbe, who's on today with us from SuperForm. He's the territory manager for California down there. And he and I had a conversation about him going down to California and trying to bring SuperForm into that area. It's kind of a new territory for them. They're expanding more and more all the time and growing, and California is somewhere they want to go. I said, well, if you guys would be willing to help out some of these people that are, needing a new way to build, a better way to build, to not recreate this fire again, maybe you could come down with me. And SuperForm just jumped on board and put their time and money behind it for both Jacob and I to get down there and represent ICF in general, but SuperForm specifically. So thank you, Jacob, for coming on here today. I know it's first time on the podcast. Ready to go?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been listening for a long time, but yeah, this is a really cool moment for me. Sure.
Yeah, and you and I obviously spent a couple of days down there together going through all of this and kind of talking through it. But I really wanted you to come on just kind of because I know you and I it was so busy that we were talking to different people the whole time. So like we literally were getting different stories back and forth as we were sitting there in this booth and talking to people. And so I wanted to get your perspective on it too. I mean, it's we both in the ICF business, but coming at it from different angles, talking to people. I know we were kind of bouncing people back and forth. You'd be like, hey, this, question about install stuff for, over here or the drafting company or whatever. And okay, here's, Jacob to, talk about product line and what you're doing over here for SuperForm. So it was kind of interesting. I think we were both getting different avenues of what was going on, but I'll say first, my big takeaway was, I think we saw on TV that we thought it was just all these, houses in Malibu, and there definitely was some people that came through that were, in those type of homes, let's say, the higher end, bigger houses that made the news a lot. But really, one of the things I thought was surprising is how many people came through we talked to that were, 1,200 square foot, very modest, regular homes, not coastal Malibu, Pacific Coast Highway type stuff. They were just normal houses that some of them had in their families for, decades and generations and stuff that they lost. So, I mean, there was a lot of different levels of homes that were lost in the fire. But anyways, there was a lot of things that surprised me. Is there anything off the top of your head that you think of when what you expected it to be and what it turned out to be?
Yeah, well, I think going down was kind of going to be showcasing resilient products, but I think the resiliency of all the people down at the Palisades that are kind of picking themselves up by the bootstraps, kind of having to rebuild their homes, but their lives right now. So it was really cool to be able to talk to those people, see how strong they were kind of continuing through this. And yeah, I think it was really cool to be able to meet people that were affected by the fire and hopefully give them a perspective about different ways of building in the future so we can help prevent these fires and going down the line.
Yeah, I think I think anyone that listens to this or knows me knows I take a pretty aggressive stance on, my frustration with why we continue to, as a nation, rebuild, or build, and especially rebuild even frustrates me more, but building houses out of firewood is just completely out of my, I can't figure out why we keep doing it. And then even funnier is being surprised when they burn down again. I mean, there's so many people that over the last 20 years and going to different fires in California, I've been a part of several rebuild processes, and more every time I've talked to somebody that said, yeah, I lost a house in, 2010, and now I lost this one, or I lost a house in 98. Now I lost this one at the same location. It's like, okay, so you keep rebuilding out of firewood. The one thing I think this event was clearly marked. It's Team Palisades. I give a little plug to teampalisades.org. They are the organization that put this together. And this was, you can go to their website, check out their stuff, and anything you can do to help and stuff is right there. If you want to help out or get involved, that's definitely where you want to go to. But so Team Palisades basically put together this event saying as a, this was a fireproof trade show. Basically, this was a, fire resistant, fireproof, whatever, different products. We saw, and you can help me out with this, Jacob, but like, I'm thinking like we saw stucco companies, we saw, and there were alternatives to ICF. There was one of the ICCF companies that was down there that was showing their product. There was steel. There was a lot of different things. Basically, it was just non-firewood related type building products and as far as accessories. Our guys that we shout out all the time at Vulcan Vents, they were there at Calmel's at the Vulcan Vents. Those guys were at the show and showing people like how important it is to keep the fire from getting in your house, having a fireproof vent that completely seals off if the fire hits it, so that the fire doesn't, even if you build an ICF house, if the fire jumps inside the house and catches all your furniture on fire, you're still kind of screwed. So it doesn't really, help you unless you make the process complete. So I'm trying to think, what were the other products that you saw, Jacob?
Stucco is a company I've been familiar with for a bit now. Ran into them at IBS, and they're basically a fire-resistant stucco company that I've been kind of following. They got on the news right after the Palisades fire, and I think their backlog is crazy right now just because their product is so good, but they're making a new manufacturing plant. So I think here in the near future, they're going to be right back to it. And I think they're their product along with Vulcan Vents and, ICF and some of the other companies that were out there, I think that's going to be kind of the way we need to look at building going forward.
Yeah, everybody, and that was kind of cool too. Like the vendors were walking around talking to each other, like, hey man, we need to make sure we're working together. We're helping each other out. The U-Stucco guys came over and talked to us. They're like, okay, it's great. We want an ICF wall and we want our stucco on the outside. And the Vulcan Vent guys stand there said, yeah, and we want our Vulcan Vents on. I mean, it legitimately was a team effort of a lot of different vendors coming together to say, this is what's, how we have to build. We have to all come together to make this happen. And it was cool. Like I said, these, as a business owner and, sales guy, it's always a competitive thing. Right? You're always trying to beat somebody out to get that business or whatever. And it just was a kind of a feel of like everybody kind of come together going, yeah, we had a conversation with the ICF company regarding that there were certain areas where they couldn't use theirs, that they were going to need to use a traditional ICF block. I mean, and a lot of times we're competing against each other because we're kind of a little different product within the ICF world. And they came over and talked to us about, hey, I have a project that's probably going to need a little bit of both and we should work together. So, I mean, really cool kind of the way everyone was trying to just come together to give people, a better option. And so like all the vendors were awesome the way they worked together and stuff. So we were there. Heather couldn't make it. She had some other stuff going on, but I was down there trying to be the best Heather I could and represent the innovative drafting, the design, being that we specialize, in ICF construction. I mean, in all brands. So whatever ICF you're using, we can draw to that. So had our displays set up down there and we're talking to people about that. And obviously that's where the whole process starts is you have to have a set of plans to get going. But it was a ton of these other products coming over to us saying, oh, can you work this into your plans? Can you work this into your plans? And really opened my eyes. And I was telling Heather how important it is if we're at the very beginning of the process with somebody to be mentioning, hey, have you thought about using U-Stucco or have you thought about using Vulcan Vents on this and drawing it into the plans at the beginning before we're out on the job site trying to build it, That
collaboration is so important in the design process. And like it started where you guys were there there was homeowners coming through. You had contractors, all sorts of different contractors.
Tons of architects.
And architects and engineers and everything coming through. We all have to work together to make this process a little easier for these people to rebuild. And one of the things that, we've been reached out to quite a bit, and it's probably because of the podcast as well, but looking at us drawing plans in California. And for a long time, I will say we avoided it. A lot of jurisdictions would not accept a draftsman's plans. They wanted an architect's stamp. However, since the fires and with all the stuff going on, a lot of jurisdictions have started easing up those requirements and saying, okay, well, even with an architect, we require full structural. So if we have full structural with a draftsman, then we're going to accept it because it's going to speed the process up for our homeowners. It saves them some money because, this whole process of they've got to clean up their lots. They've got to get them ready for construction again. There's a lot that goes into it. So if we can reduce the costs and speed up the process somewhere along the way, then that's what we want to do. And that's the jurisdictions are jumping on board with that as well right now. So,
well, they're recognizing, to give we say this over and over again, but it's amazing to me how many people still don't hear me when I say it, or they're still surprised when I say it.
Yeah.
You got to understand, nationally, 85% of the plans that are drawn to build houses are drawn by draftsmen, not architects. So there's a differentiation, and there's a lot of people out there in the world who are draftsmen that represent themselves as architects, or they say even the name of their company is, so-and-so's architecture. You can refer to that. It doesn't mean that they're a licensed or, they don't have a degree in architecture. They're draftsmen. I said, geez, not just because draftsmen do all the work. So I'm kind of give kudos to draftsmen, not downplay it. But understanding that, when the jurisdiction goes in and says, we're going to require a licensed architect to draw this plan, one, you're going to take the price of the plan and quadruple it at minimum. So you're not making an affordable house, which is something that everyone's trying to do, is make it more affordable. It's not going to be timely because there's literally 15%. You got, 1/5 the amount of people available to even draw the plans. Most architects which I love all you architects out there. I know a lot of architects that, I'm great, awesome, but they are so busy. They're kind of handpicking the projects they do. Are they going to do the ones? Yeah. In Malibu on the coastline, 10,000 square foot houses. Yes, they are. But most normal, median level houses are going to have to be drawn by draftsmen, or it's just not going to happen because they're just, one, they won't take on the project, and two, they don't have the time.
Well, and what I've seen is a large number of, we're collaborating with architecture firms now,
for sure,
where we're designing and drawing the ICF part and doing, everything we do for our clients. And then in those areas where an architect is required, then they're taking our files and adding their stamp and adding their, required information that they want on the plans as well. So we are collaborating.
It's a very good option because, it's no different than like an architect or a electrician apprentice type situation, right?
Correct.
You got an apprentice that's doing all the work on the on an electrician's job, and then the electrician comes through, checks everything off, and signs off on it. So it's a very efficient, good way to do it, and a way to keep costs down and speed things up. So I guess what we're saying in the long run, kudos to California, which we don't say a whole lot, but kudos to California for actually, trying to do something to make this go smoother for their people, because that is something that, like you said, the heartache was, like, I don't know if I was quite ready for that, like at this one, because I thought it was going to be all kind of people like, hey, yeah, no big deal. I've got a lot of money. I can fix this. There was just so many people that came in. They're like, man, I am like, and the first question a lot of times they ask, what's the cost of doing, this? And, what if I want to use SuperForm, where's this going to come in cost wise? Because I am literally not getting as much money back from the insurance that it's going to cost me to rebuild it. So I have to save money. And that's where I know Jacob was talking to some people about, like, your savings in some of this stuff. And it's hard in California because there's a lot more legislation on and rules and stuff on being a contractor. But even if you can get in there in a little sweat equity, or if it's a little bit of, the speed and time of which you can install it, if it's going to happen a little bit faster, you might be able to save a little money there. And because there was a lot of people that were just like, I have to save some money on this. Where can I save some money on it? So we were kind of having that conversation, how ICF falls in price wise, but it was very different. And I don't know, like the other cool thing is kind of talking about the installation of it and people working with is finding the contractors to work with. And I know, Jacob, you got to talk with JJ from Penna Construction, JJ Penna. Tony from Penna Construction is actually scheduled to come on the podcast here in another week or so. But you kind of chatted with him about like building in California. What did you talk with him about or hear about?
Yeah, it was great getting to talk to JJ. He's a third generation ICF builder. So his dad and grandfather both built with ICF. So obviously extremely knowledgeable. And, for Trevor and I going down to that market, not necessarily knowing it all that well, just because we're not kind of planted there, he was kind of giving us little tips about, when people come in and ask, like you mentioned, they always want to know price, and they want to know how it compares to wood frame or stick frame builds. So he was able to give us kind of a percentage. And he said kind of in that market, it's anywhere from about 2 to 5% more. But then you can always find ways to kind of bring that number back a little bit closer, whether it's bringing down your HVAC system. So it's great to have connections like that, especially if you're not there all the time, because as you know, it's hard to find installers and good installers out there. And having Penna Construction, they're a long-term construction company that's been doing this for a long time. So it's good to have the trust and, the contact of a quality construction company like that.
Yeah, and I'm going to make sure we tag them in the show notes, so anyone wants to reach out to them. They came and JJ came, worked in the booth with us, and gave us that insight. I'm an installer, but I'm an installer in Idaho. Like, I don't install, in California, so I don't really have, especially Southern California, I don't have that experience at all. So, but we'll tag them in there as well, so that you can reach out to them, because they, just amazing amount of experience, and it was just cool to. Especially when people are like, oh, ICF, this is really cool. Like, is there anybody doing this? And we're like, well, here's a 3-generation company that's been doing it a lot, and he was able to just quote, like, where they'd done it. And do you know this building? Yeah, I did that building. And do you know this one? And so it was very informational just to talk with a local installer to get that kind of feel of what they were doing. But yeah, it was all in all, it came around to like, what a great event. I'm hoping, I believe they're going to kind of keep trying to do these events because it's going to take years to get all this stuff rebuilt and redone. And I told Dennis we're happy to participate every chance we get in this and anything we can do to help out because I think it's important. But kind of the bigger picture is, how do we, and I'm hoping that obviously a lot of the people listening to this podcast don't live in Palisades and this doesn't affect them directly, but it affects a lot of people, a lot of places. And I think the one thing that, there's nothing technically positive that came out of a fire like this, but the one thing that was very educational was particularly the video shots of Malibu, right? Of everybody, you had houses that burned and they had the Pacific Coast Highway on one side of them and a Pacific Ocean on the other side of them. So when you sit there and think that you're going to, rake some pine needles and cut down some low-lying, tree branches around your house and make it, fire-wise, and that's going to save your house, that's not what's burning. We keep telling everybody, and I've had multiple conversations with fire scientists, is people got to stop thinking about, oh, the fuel is the fire or the brush around it. It's not. That's what ignites it and starts it. But what happens is houses catch other houses on fire. Malibu is a great example. Every one of those houses was caught on fire by the house next to it. So once a house starts burning, it burns. And it's not just, I say the firewood, that does obviously help it get going. But the stuff they can't put out with firefighters is the furniture inside, the electronics inside, the appliances. Like there's so many things inside. And now you're talking about lithium batteries on stuff, whether it be, you don't even have to have an EV to have a lithium battery in your house. There's a lot of lithium batteries in your house, whether it be bikes or, different, your lawnmower, maybe a lithium battery. Like there's so many things in a house that are very flammable that if we can build the house out of ICF and stop the fire from getting to those items, the house will not burn down and it will therefore not burn the house next to it down. So if there's anything people get out of this and what we're, out there doing is we're trying to teach people to stop building houses that catch on fire, stop, make it a wall of, technically you're going to save the house next to you. Say the person that has a stick frame house next to you, chances are their house won't burn down if you stop the fire from going to their house. So, there's just so many reasons why we got to promote this. I know, that's every brand out there. SuperForm's got their own things they're doing to promote that. But Jacob, you cover the Northwest and the West Coast, I should say. And
yeah, exactly. What states do you cover? What areas?
So Washington, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Utah, Wyoming, and California. So coming from the Northwest, I'm familiar. I feel like we have wildfires, every summer it gets worse and worse. And I was looking up some numbers going into this talk here today, and there was 44,000 wildfires this year in the U.S. already. So it's not like they're slowing down, and it's hopefully something that we're starting to see now that we have resilient products that we can replace some of these older methods with. And I think you guys do a great job of promoting all these in this podcast, and just you guys have been doing this for a long, long time. So having advocates like you to kind of help push this forward is a huge step in the right direction. Now it's just getting in front of the right people, educating everybody, and making sure that we're going to be building resilient structures. Because if you look around the world, like go over to Europe, they're not building with wood over there. They have buildings that are sticking around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we just keep getting stuck in this cycle. So I think us together and ICF and some of these other brands, we can make a huge difference out here. So we're not having to, have this heartache every time we have a catastrophe like this fire in the Palisades or wherever else it might be. So I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, with ICF, not only is it it's a fireproof structure, or fire resilient, because people will get mad at me if I say fireproof. So resilient.
I'll say proof. I don't really care.
But
I've seen houses that did not burn down, and all the houses around them burned down. That's pretty proof, if you ask me. So,
but you look at all the things that we're facing, as homeowners these days: rising cost of energy, the in California, the need to reduce power consumption. And you can do so much of that with ICF because, it's so weather.
It's killing other birds. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So there's so many things. And it's, we're talking about fire today. We're talking about resiliency, but I've got 3 projects right now that are in South Carolina, and in North Carolina that they had, natural disasters and different things last year. And one of my clients was like, well, once the fire goes out here, then we've got, hurricane season and we've got this. So there's so many things that ICF checks the box for that, this is just one of them.
Well, we've done for years, and I know Jacob knows, being in California, one of the big selling points of ICF down there is seismic. I mean, it's a 10x stronger seismically than a wood structure. So there's so much that goes into building a wood structure. And I had this conversation with several builders down there. Because like I said, again, back to touting this event, I spoke with general contractors, I spoke with engineers, I spoke with architects, I spoke with interior designers, I spoke with homeowners. Like I literally talked to the whole gamut of the build process in this meeting. And talking to the builders, I said, well, one of the things that you got to look at is, we're getting the fireproofness, but what do you guys have to deal with? I knew the answer. So what do you guys have to deal with for seismic areas, to put in the houses? And they're like, oh, the Simpson hangers we have to put in, and even the threaded ready rod and different things that they have to have, and spring ready rod, all this different stuff for shear and sway and different things they have to worry about, structural beams and stuff. And there's all these things that you don't have to do with an ICF with concrete. You eliminate,
which therefore reduces costs.
And so like and this was a little unrealistic because it was like a 20,000 square foot house that we did in Los Gatos that I talk about all the time. There was $250,000 in Simpson hangers and ties that they had to put in for shear and sway that was going to be installed in the house that they eliminated by going by ICF. Mm-hmm. So I always check that with my builder guys down there, and I did it again this trip down there. I was like, okay, am I accurate in saying that's a big savings? And they're like, yes, 100%, that's a big savings. So there's a lot of different aspects, like you said, as why we would want to do this in these areas, and it's in other areas. Like I said, I've covered the Western 11 to 13 states for the last, X amount of years in the ICF world. And the only reason we haven't had such a catastrophe in Montana is because there's just not as many people in Montana. You look at Idaho, we have big fires every year. The reason why there's not structural damage in a lot of places is because we have 1.4 million people in our whole state. We were in Hollywood, and just West Hollywood has more than that. You're talking about like, towns that have 5-6 million people in the town, then obviously that's a scary thought to have fires hit. But, we're going to have fires and structures lost in every rural area, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, every year. We had fires all around us this year. We still have fires burning. So, it's just a matter of like, do we understand the importance of building with ICF or even just any non-flammable product to try to stop this from happening. And we've got a lot of opportunity to do that. So I don't know. This was a great event. It gives us a lot to talk about, but I said all in all, it's a wake up call for everybody, not just the people in the Palisades of hey, this is an event that could happen somewhere else.
Yeah. It's just the start. This
not
was,
if, it's when. So
yeah. And this was a great event, like you said, to bring people together and to, open people's thought processes to collaborating and how we can work together and how we can design and build something that is going to last and not going to be, have something happen to it and burn down in the future.
Yeah. So I think anything else you're thinking of that we missed or anything, Jacob, from being down there that you remember talking to anybody or anything?
Not so much. Yeah, I think we did talk to some folks about MST going down into California, but as far as seismic zones, I think we're kind of on hold for that, but I think
it's getting close. Yeah, that did come up a lot. And like I said, we're very actively using MST, and MST has been we have them on the podcast, and that's been a product that's just growing like crazy. Interesting combination of conversation with the MST bar is that it has really, really good fire ratings. They just did some testing that is supposed to come out soon regarding its structural capabilities under heat, and then also the seismic. So California is mostly all seismic zone D. Most of the coastline is, which makes we don't have approval for structural on MST in those areas for seismic D. But what we're hearing from MST is that is just around the corner. So I did tell a lot of people there, like, hey, stay tuned. We're working on that. That's happening. But in any area, if you're a seismic zone C or lower, then absolutely, like that is something that a lot of people are talking about just from a a green standpoint, from a, it's 3 times stronger, 4 times lighter. So it's just a way to go with that. We've switched all of our structures to MST structural rebar, which has been a phenomenal move for us. But like I said, we only have a couple little pockets where we have seismic zone G here so that we deal with. So it's not as bad. We did talk, I just want to make sure we're getting the plugs in for some of the people we talked about that has helped us out with this Hulk waterproof system, which was, we've said we use, does have a fireproof rating as well. And so they've got approvals for fireproof rating that allows them to be a coating on not just the ICF structure, but actually any kind of wood structures that you have to help seal off some of the gaps and stuff where air might get through. So kind of a good idea to use like up in eave soffit, things like that. So we did have some conversations about that and conversations with Hulk regarding that. I'll tag them in the notes as well if you want to go look up that for fire safety. Yeah, I don't know. My one last plug for innovative drafting design for, if there are people are getting into this, and we do, there is understanding of the fireproofness of this and the items that you would suggest to use. So you guys can definitely help them with that.
We can. And, I've built in fire zones myself. And so the stucco company that you guys mentioned, I've used stucco in my soffits and to prevent that with the Vulcan vents combination. So just lots of different options. And I think because we work with ICF, because we're looking at these different things, the whole reason that innovative drafting and design was born, was to specialize in ICF. We're pretty familiar with a lot of these fireproof, fire resilient, ways to prevent fire from getting into your home. So whether you work with us or another drafting company or architecture firm, just make sure that they're familiar with those items.
And then lastly, obviously, SuperForm stepped up to the plate for this trip and sent us down there and represented, and I appreciate that a lot. They've already been on the podcast here a while back, but it's been a bit. So I don't know, Jacob, if you want to give you the SuperForm pitch of our listeners and why they should work with SuperForm other than just your charming personality and good looks.
Sure. Yeah, I want to shout out Team Palisades once again. I think that's why SuperForm was kind of on board to get down there. They created a good little community, and I think that's very important to SuperForm. We're a family-run business. We make all of our products in-house. We like to kind of get involved in events like this that are kind of surrounded by community and good people. So as far as our product line, I think we have a 12-inch block. It's one of the strongest out there. We have a good network of builders and engineers and partners like you guys out there that we get to work with all the time. So pretty much anywhere in North America that you're looking to get some ICF, SuperForm we'd be able to get that out to you. So we feel very lucky to be able to partner with you guys. And yeah, I think it's been an honor to be on the podcast with you guys. Like I said, I listen to you guys a lot, and you guys have been a bit of mentors to me throughout my time in the ICF. I've only been doing this for about 3.5 years. So you guys have been gracious with your time and energy. So we appreciate you guys a bunch, and yeah, I look forward to the future.
Awesome.
Well, I want to give a little plug to SuperForm too, because I finished a set of plans for a SuperForm client, and they were asking some questions about, install and different things. And I referred them over to SuperForm's YouTube channel, and there's some great information there. And then you guys have these catalogs or I'll call them a catalog, like an online catalog. And there's hyperlinks within that catalog that takes you to actual videos and shows. It's a great amount of resources for people. So if you're new to the podcast and you're new to ICF and you want some information, check out, SuperForm ICF and take a look at those, because it really is some great information. My clients that I shared it with and their engineer really, really liked all the stuff that we were able to provide. I mean, down to the DWG file for CAD details. So just so much information on their website that is great for everybody. So I'll shout that out from my perspective as a draftsman and builder.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And to that point too, I know our marketing team's been working hard. They're putting out kind of weekly tips that people can use. So maybe for your listeners, make sure to keep tabs on those as they're coming out, usually on our Instagram or YouTube. They're just good little tips and tricks to use out in the field. I know Harvey, our technical advisor's kind of gone out there and given a bunch of tips that he's ran into over the years. So I think that could be some useful tips for a bunch of your guys' listeners out there. So keep a lookout for those. And yeah, our YouTube's growing every day. So yeah, keep posted in that as well.
Yeah, and I think that's, all in all, and there's a lot of good information out there. So go do your research, check it out. If you've got, any kind of questions and stuff, obviously we've always put ourselves out there. You can shoot us a DM or an email, info@buildwithicf.com, @buildwithicf on all the socials. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have, or if we can direct you to the right people. I'll put a tag in there for SuperForm. I'll tag their YouTube channel, and also put Jacob's contact information if you want to reach out to him and get direct conversation with him on that stuff. So yeah, everything, it's all just kind of information, right? That's what we're trying to put out there. If there's any listeners, if anybody's got any products, especially fire related, I mean, any type of ICF product, but really we're getting into this, this episode around fire. If you've got a product that you want to get on the podcast, please reach out to us. We're happy to bring on other, products and things that are related to this. I did have conversation with pretty much every vendor there that I thought might fit for us to get on the podcast. And I do hope to get, Vulcan Vents on here and some of these guys, to actually come on the podcast and talk about things. But if our listeners have suggestions, God, send them to us, DM us, send us emails. We're happy to get that thing put together and try to get them on the podcast. So.
And thank you to all of our listeners. I've noticed recently an uptick on some of the Facebook groups and different things with people posting, tagging either the drafting company or the podcast. And so I just want to say thank you for those referrals. Yeah,
please. Yeah, and please feel free to, if you see somebody asking questions on a Facebook group or something, feel free to say, hey, go check out the podcast. It's I try to put all the titles in a way that people can easily find the episodes they need to listen to if they have a specific question about, electrical or siding or waterproofing or whatever. So yeah, please direct everybody back to the podcast. We'll, happy to help everybody out we can. That's why we do this. It's not for the millions of dollars in sponsorship money yet, but we're getting there. We're working on it. But anyway, thank you, Jacob, again for coming on. Appreciate you. I'm sure we'll find another reason to get you on here. We always like to have repeats on here if we can. So, but yeah, I think everything.
That's it. Yeah. Just thank you to all of our listeners. Keep tagging us. Check us out. Tag us with a picture of you listening to the podcast or something. We'll try to get some T-shirts sent out. That. We still have T-shirts.
Nobody's really hitting us up on that one. We've had a couple, but we've sent a few T-shirts out. But yeah, I mean, hit us up with a little, hey, listen, I'm listening to the podcast and tag us. But yeah, we got T-shirts to give away. So
we do.
We
got swag.
Know. Right on. Okay. Thank you guys. We are, like I said, we are going to step it up. We got some good guests coming up here. So don't give up on us here. We're going to get some more episodes out, try to get back to a weekly or bi-weekly type situation. So we've got more fresh information out there, but we got 52 episodes you can go back and listen to get caught up if you need to. But yeah, take a listen. And if there's anything we can do, any suggestions for upcoming podcasts, anything you have, man, reach out to us. Love to hear from you. So have a good day and we'll see you on the next episode.